Feeling burned out and demotivated as a developer. The current market feels oversaturated. By when is sleep I make money? Okay. I have been wrestling with a lot of demotivation lately, and I needed a space to vent and seek some advice. With about 8 years of experience primarily in PHP, I think we found your culprit. I've recently delved into a personal project using Nextjs. Okay. It's been quite a journey, learning something new and pushing my developer skills further, especially working as a solo dev on this. Why did you jump to Nextjs from a PHP background? Like what? Okay. The learning curve has been steep but exciting. However, the amount of effort and time I'm investing feels overwhelming. My routine has shifted to working from 12 p.m. to 4 a.m. daily, which is insane. And I'm questioning the payoff. The enjoyment of learning is there, but I can't help feeling hopeless about my positive outcome from this. Looking at the broader picture, hold on, 12 p.m. to 4 a.m. daily. What? Has shifted from working from 12 p.m. to 4 a.m. daily. When you say working, you're probably including learning Nextjs and building something with it, right? Are you building it at work? Are you building your own project? Because that's relevant. If you're building your own project with a new framework or the library, I feel like that's going to contribute less to your burnout, and in fact, it might even start reducing it. So I'm wondering if you're using Nextjs to build something for work, or you're just building your own thing. There's a big difference there, and I think a lot of developers need to really take note of that. Just because you're working more doesn't mean you're going to necessarily burn out because you're working more. It depends on basically the mental energy and the fulfillment, the mental energy that takes and the fulfillment that you're going to achieve or feel when you are working on certain projects that are going to be relevant, that are going to reduce that burnout or increase it. Looking at the broader picture, the tech market in my country feels incredibly saturated. Every idea I brainstorm seems to be already in motion. Yeah, but if you want to okay, so you're thinking about coming up with a new idea, but every idea in some form has pretty much been created already. Or at least I think that's a healthy perspective to have. So what unique flavor can you turn that idea into, right? You don't have to reinvent the wheel, but there are so many very niche specific problems. What problems do you want to solve? Just think about thinking about the app. So if you are a professional developer and you want to experiment with different technologies, what you can do is you can just think about what software you use, what apps you use, how can I make it different? What could I do differently to, what features do I wish this app had that would make this app better for me, right? You can build off of even large applications. You can build niche features that turn into their own apps that solve your specific problem. This idea, and I think it's a huge misconception that stops so many professional developers from just building something and exploring a new technology and putting it out there. It's they want to create something brand new, completely unique. It's not going to happen. You're going to be able to be more creative and come up with ideas better once you start doing it, you implement, you execute, you get feedback on okay, do people give a crap about it? What do I need to improve to even push it out, market this, right? You're just getting stuck in your own mind of, this has already been created, next. And you're going to continue that pattern until you never build anything. You're just going to perpetually continue that pattern for the rest of time. That's the habit. And if you want to continue that habit, keep feeding that habit. But people need to break out of that. It's so important, and it's so easy to push something out. And I think an acceptance of, hey, maybe this app doesn't gain any users. That's okay. But I thought of a project, I planned out the project, I really was critical about what is the MVP, the minimum viable product, to just get this out there, get it usable, and I can build on it if I get feedback. That's the habit, that's the skill you need to get better at, not, okay, what is the best idea? That's, it holds so many professional developers back from just pushing out something cool and, seeing if it grows and growing with that project. They never do it. They tripped themselves up. What's up, Renee? What's up, Mr. Organics? I did the same, went from PHP to Next. Not that big of a jump. But why PHP to Next is what I'm asking. I'm not saying it's necessarily difficult, but why PHP to Next? Let's see. Looking at the... Okay, so it's oversaturated. Yeah, every idea I brainstorm seems to already be in motion, evidenced by tens of existing similar businesses and countless coming soon pages on every domain name I could think of. And most of those are never going to take off. Most of those will never launch. And then most of those that launch will just be dead in the water. Execution's important with starting a new app, but marketing is really important. It's something that developers underestimate, and good marketing can, take not great ideas pretty damn far. You can create entire startups with that. But it's just like it's a mindset that blocks a lot of professional developers. This all leads to a big question for me. At what cost am I continuing to push myself? Is it worth grinding through personal projects and skill enhancement when the market seems to be bursting at the seams with similar ideas and talents? Okay, would love to hear from anyone who's been in a similar situation. How do you cope with these feelings of futility and oversaturation? Are there any strategies you've found for staying motivated and relevant in such a crowded field? So I think there needs to be a mindset shift. And so this isn't just among aspiring developers. This is among professional developers. And I think there needs to be a mindset shift that part of it is perfectionism. Part of it is like, I got to create this amazing app. And, there's some arrogance to that, right? And I think you need to find more humility in yourself and saying, you know what? I can't create this perfectly unique app. I probably need to get experience with it, but the only way I'm going to get experience with it is just to launch it and see what happens, right? Let's get some feedback. Do I get 1 user? Do I get 10 users? Do I get 100 users? But let's try it out, launch it, build a minimum viable product, and just see what happens. And I'm probably going to have to learn a lot. I'm going to have to learn marketing. I'm going to have to learn finances potentially, and just like tax stuff and like whatever else you're going to have to do to capture if you gain any income, if you build like a mini SaaS product. But like, I wouldn't even focus necessarily on trying to make money from it. Just solve a problem. What problem do you want to solve? Obviously, like and this is why I've mentioned before, if you think about the apps that you use that you wish were different, that had different features, what would you want them to do differently? What features do you want that they refuse to implement? How do you wish this entire website to run differently? Would you change the entire premise of the website or the problem that it's trying to solve? Are you just trying to change, like, even if it's just like Twitter, are you trying to change some functionality of a tweet? Whether it's like increasing the amount of characters that you can write that maybe, and then, I don't know, you increase the amount of characters that you can write, which then it might contribute to the algorithm and push that tweet out to people that aren't just trying to dunk on each other on Twitter, but actually have a constructive conversation, right? So maybe length of text will connect you with more people that want to have a constructive conversation on a website like Twitter. Are there features that you would change in the apps that you use daily or that you use weekly? What are those features? Build it, right? Now, I think it's a little bit hard to get a social media, like a new social media website off the ground, but are you able to build a Chrome extension that might be able to hook in? Like, what can you do to just solve the problem that you're facing with the apps that you use? And understand, like, you don't have to be some genius. You can just try things out, but you have to be humble enough to take a step forward, understanding that you're probably going to fail, and hey, I'm going to learn anyways, right? And hey, this idea might not be great, but it could become great, but I got to push it out there and I got to take a chance. And I think this is just an excuse of not, like, you just don't want to fail. You're trying to think of the perfect idea and you just don't want it to fail. That's arrogance. And it's crazy how many startups end up becoming a little bit more sustainable and scalable, or they turn it into something. They gain users, they turn into something with all the feedback that comes their way. And it even can pivot. Like when you get user feedback, you throw out an idea, you get people to try it out, like 12 people in your network to try it out. Like, hey, it'd be really cool if it did this. And you could think about it. You could choose whether you want to implement that feature or like, this isn't the direction I want to go. But you'd be surprised if you see patterns of feedback that you get, how that can turn whatever you're building into something much more valuable than what you started out with by just seeing patterns based on the feedback that you're getting. That's huge, but people just don't want to fail. They don't want to chance it. So it's really hard to instill this mindset in people just to try things out and just fail, and kind of like a fuck it mentality. But the problem with a lot of professional developers too is I think a lot of them probably like they're so focused on building something that is scalable. They're so focused on building something where they're proud of the code, where the architecture, even though they didn't need to, they spent a week with a very, very heavy framework, picking up a new heavy framework and just building it with that for the potential that they're going to get like 100 employees in the future. Like, what the fuck? Just push something out. Scrap something together and push it out. You can refactor, you can rework the code. I see a lot of professional developers that spend way too much time in the code when their main goal is to just push out an app and get people to start using it. You don't need great code to do that. And maybe that's a controversial thing to say, but I think a lot more developers just need to come up with an MVP. Doesn't have to be a unique problem. It's just solving a problem, push it out to your network. Don't spend a lot of time having the perfect scalable architecture. Just get the code working, push it out. And then if people are interested, cool. This is an idea that now I can invest more time into the code to make it more scalable, to make it more organized. I feel like a lot of professional developers would really benefit with working in the startup world and seeing how a lot of features kind of just get pushed out, and it's a trial and error, and sometimes they get pulled, but they don't spend a lot of time necessarily with the most organized code. They get that user feedback, and there's a balance, right? Obviously, you have very messy startups that will have core features that they never refactor. They never invest time into refactoring. But I think there should be kind of like trial and error features that are pushed out where you're not investing a lot of time into the code and keeping it organized and scalable. And you just see if users want it. If they give a crap about it, you measure the usage with it. Like that's a thing, but you don't really pick up that mindset unless you work in the startup world. So the problem is I hear a lot of people, they'll kind of just spin their wheels trying something and they'll put a lot of hours into it, but they're not very efficient with it. They're not investing that energy and all that time into the right places. So this is a tricky one. It can feel demotivating. But it all depends on like whether you're trying to get out of the PHP world or are you trying to build a new app, because that's what I perceive. You're trying to build a new app, and if you aren't even, I mean, like you're going into the entrepreneurship world if you're trying to build a new app and see if this is gonna do anything. But you know, this is also why I'm like, why'd you go from PHP to Next? Because my original mindset was, well, are you trying to get another dev job? Because that's not a fair transition. Like, you're in the PHP world, you probably have shaky JavaScript concepts, and now you're jumping into something like Next? That is crazy to me. Like, you're not making yourself that marketable. Like, a lot of companies do not want to hire JavaScript developers with shaky fundamentals. It's just... So... there's a lot more to dig into this, but I'm kind of curious what you guys thought. What's up, Devin? How you doing? I guess my follow-up question would be, why not PHP to Next? Personally, I really enjoy Laravel, but when to build SPAs without having to do partial page refreshes. Next just makes building well, it depends on what the goal is, right? Because it sounds like, so when he says the current market feels oversaturated, what market? Are we talking about like the dev market? Are we talking about the entrepreneurship, like just pushing out products, similar ideas and talents? What market? I don't think that's very clear to me. But then it's like, and with the current climate of frequent layoffs, even getting a job working for a company feels daunting. Is that kind of just a side? Or like, what is the priority here? Are we building a new app? Right? Because if we're talking about like the ideas, brainstorming seems to already be, so every idea I brainstorm seems to already be in motion. What does that have anything to do with getting another dev job on a different stack? That has nothing to do with it. That speaks to you launching an app and seeing if anything comes of it. But then, you know, we have the aside of kind of just like the job market in general. I feel like the direction of this person, maybe it's, I don't know. I feel like the direction of this person, I don't even know what it is. So I think it depends on the developer too. For instance, I was always full stack, so JavaScript always feels always in my tool set to begin with. They may have already been relatively comfortable with JS2. I very rarely meet full stack developers that are good with JavaScript. Very rarely. It's usually surface level knowledge. And if you want to like dive deeper into the JavaScript world, you probably got to dive deeper into the fundamentals. So my bet is the JavaScript fundamentals are probably shit. You are welcome to challenge that, but like if you're talking about full stack and you got some exposure to JavaScript, that has me even more worried. Amen. That's very true. Netcode showed how he built Netcode, and a lot of people were surprised. It was just Angular and Firebase in the back end. Nice. I don't think I've checked out Netcode. What is Netcode? So it's like, I think here's kind of my conclusion with this. I don't know what the hell you're doing. I don't know what the hell your direction is. And I'm not even sure you know. What stack are you trying to learn? You dove into Nextjs. Like, what are your goals? Like, what kind of dev job do you want? What kind of problems do you want to solve? You're a PHP developer with 8 years of experience. You want to transition into what? So I'm really thinking about, I really feel like this person's trying to transition and get out of PHP, and maybe they are self-limiting based on them thinking they need to come up with a new brand or a brand new idea. I don't really get the logic of this post, and that makes me feel like this developer doesn't really have a logical path forward, because I don't really think they know what they want. I think they're kind of just exploring. And I think the solution is to just continue exploring and continue building. Because it's, at least from this post, there's no direction. There's nothing solidified. And of course, you're going to feel lost. And then you're going to focus on, well, okay, now we're going to go to generics, and the overall, the overarching job market seems rough. And then you start getting into this self-defeating thought process, and you start just letting your anxiety run rampant. There's nothing constructive about this mindset. It's a broken mindset that will hold you back all the time. And so the solution here is to just take your idea, build it, push it out, use a new technology to do that, try it out. Do you like this stack? Do you like solving these types of problems with this stack? And then do it again and try it again. It's experimentation. And I think that's a great way to start dipping your toes in different stacks and different types of jobs and different types of industries, depending on the types of problems you want to solve through your personal projects. I just feel like this lacks direction. Remember that bold PayPal and Square were both considered garbage code when they first launched, but they found a user base and kept refactoring. That's a great example, Devin. Decode is a content creator focused on elite code. Oh, okay, gotcha. Remember both PayPal? Oh, I am seeing 2 messages from you, Devin. That is probably... Oh, okay, gotcha. You retracted the last one. So anyways, that's my conclusion. I sense so when you have a lack of direction and you can't clearly state that, you are going to spend your time from 12 p.m. to 4 a.m. doing jack shit. And you are going to burn yourself out. You have no direction. You have no sense of like anything pulling you to something. And I think you'll start solidifying what the hell you want to do with your dev career by building and experimenting and just checking out different libraries. And it's fine to use Nextjs, but like, why? What is your ultimate goal with learning Nextjs? Are you just trying it? Cool. Okay, what else are you going to try? So there's, you know, you're not going to find the help that you need here. You're going to probably feel a little bit better because other people feel burned out, but that doesn't really move the needle forward. And I feel like this mindset's probably going to hold you back for a longer time than it needs to. But yeah, I think a lot more developers need to just build. Anxiety generally can be cured is probably a wrong word, but it can be eased through action. And that's building, trying things out, getting more involved in other areas of the dev industry. And you're going to feel a lot better about yourself.